Long as I'm the number one, I don't care who come after. When I came from Africa, they call me booty scratcher. Now they scream a nigga name when I say who's the master.
That's the BCMA podcast. That's the Black Clover Martial Arts podcast. It's your boy Lucky from Lucky's Muay Thai, and this is episode number 87. In this episode, we'll finally talk about me receiving my brown belt and what does it mean. Combat sports has been a little bit boring, except for a few exciting things that happened. We didn't talk about Ngannou. I guess we can touch on that a little bit. UFC 300 is coming up, and all right. But we're going to test a little theory of mine right now. And last but not least, I'll talk very, very little about Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, and it may not be what you think. So stick around. But first, if you like the show, tap the like, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment below. Tell a friend, pass it along, let people know this show is still here and we're still talking MMA and life and martial arts and whatever else. If you want to stop by the gym, hit us up, www.luckysmt.com. We'll get you in for a trial class. We have Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. Soon we're going to announce our kids' classes. It's only going to have a very, very small amount of space. So we're talking maybe 10 kids. So if you're a kid or a parent that's interested in getting your kid in, as soon as we let you know, you better book quick. But we have it all. So if you want to stop by, hit us up, www.luckysmt.com, and we shall get you started on your Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, overall health and fitness journey. Hit us up. Okay. I received my brown belt. There's a little thing right here where I've been sort of collecting my belts and adding them to it. And because I've seen this art before, and I was like, oh, it's really dope. When it's done, when I get my black belt, I'm going to put all of those together and frame it and all that. And I thought I should talk about at least what it means to me. I think I did that for purple belt as well. You know what's funny about it is I started seeing these videos very recently about belts don't mean anything. The belt systems have changed. What are belts? Like all these sort of different ideas. And I think that it diminishes the sport a little bit. And the reason, obviously, I am not talking about McDojo belts where they're just kind of handing you belts for, you showed up, but you didn't learn anything. You didn't do anything in order other than show up to really receive it. I get that. But there is something to be said for somebody spending plenty of time. Also, I saw somebody say, as long as you show up, you're going to get your black belt, just keep coming. There is some truth to that, but I think what they mean is show up and actually train, and you'll eventually get to the place where you deserve and earn a black belt. Belts do mean something. People can say whatever the hell they want. If they didn't mean anything, nobody would wear them. They would just do no gi, and that would be that. The real truth of the matter is, I used to think, I was wondering, is that a real thing? Like, was it always that way? Did people not care about belts? Yes and no. My Sensei Pereira, who I was with for like 9, almost 10 years, when he spoke about jiu-jitsu in Brazil and sort of their history, he spoke about fighting in the gyms, gym storming, fighting on the streets, taking judo, and his judo instructor not being happy with him learning jiu-jitsu and finding out he was fighting in the streets and disciplining him. And like, there was more to it, and other jiu-jitsu players just having so much heart, fighting with crazy injuries. Not that we should do that, but during those times, nobody knew any better, really. They just did what they thought they were supposed to do, the samurai lifestyle. And promotions for belts weren't always about your technique necessarily. It was also about your heart. So you could potentially not be the best grappler, but you fight in a Vale Tudo fight in which you have to strike as well as grapple, and you show your heart so big by fighting it all out, and even maybe getting injured, that those kind of things deserve promotion. And maybe some of the promotion is about your heart and your soul and what you put into a subject, even if you may not be great at it. In martial arts overall, the strength of it all is a balance between your physical, your mental, and your heart, right? Your soul. So there is something to be said for having the ability to continuously push that boundary and try to get to that point over a number of years without being criticized for being promoted because they actually put their heart and soul into something even though they weren't great at it. That's for their instructors to do, to critique where their techniques are and how they can get better and how they can improve them. But to say that belts don't matter is crazy. And yeah, I've heard plenty of stories about Helio even wearing a blue belt. I've heard he wore a white belt. I've seen other people, Yamamoto Damashi, I've seen Enson Inoue go and say he was going to demote himself to purple belt or something like this. And I've seen other people do the same thing, which must mean that the belts matter in some way. So they may not matter to those people with those sort of Western ideas, but they do matter and they do mean something. And if you're out there and you're working your butt off and you get promoted, don't let anybody tell you your belt, your stripe, your whatever, it doesn't matter, because you definitely, if you didn't go to a McDojo, you worked for it in some regard and you deserved it and you earned it and you were given it. So be grateful for it, appreciate it, and don't let people tell you that it's not worth anything, because those same people that are telling you that your belt isn't worth anything are literally only getting the subscribers and things like that, the follows and views, because of their freaking belts. Most of them are black belts, and people are listening to them because they're black belts. If their name was just Joe Schmo and they were on there talking smack, nobody would give a damn whether they cared if your belt was real or you were worth the promotion or not. We only care what certain people say because we know that they achieved the things that we were trying to achieve. So please, if you've achieved those things, don't get there and then tell us that it's not good, it's not valuable, it's not worth anything, it doesn't matter. I get what you're saying. Like, it's family over everything. It's your heart and your soul that matters. It's all of those things are true. But diplomas, certifications, medals, whatever it is, all of those things matter. So please allow people to pat themselves on the back and enjoy their moment. Goodness sakes, man, what are we doing? Like, we want to give out things to people that don't deserve them and yet knock people that get things that do deserve them, which is, I don't know, man. I guess that's where we are right now. That being said, I'm very proud of my brown belt. I haven't been able to enjoy it much. I've only been rolling like twice a week right now, but I was rolling 4 times and now it's 2 times. My schedule just got really hectic, but I'll be back on it 4 days a week trying to get this grind back happening. So yay, congrats to me on my brown belt, even though it's been like a month now. I was thinking about how combat sports is just not as interesting right now. And I was kind of trying to figure out, like, am I crazy? I'm listening to people kind of say stuff like this. You know, I listen to people bitch about UFC 300 coming up, not being able to pull a good main event together, which they ended up doing, I guess. Pereira versus Buckley, right? No, sorry, Pereira versus Jamal Hill, right? I don't know why I said Buckley. Jamal Hill. That's a great main event. Kinda. Jamal Hill's coming back from injury. It felt like it was kind of thrown together last minute because they couldn't get other people. I don't really know. But the truth of the matter is, I think that as far as other organizations beyond the UFC goes, a lot of those organizations are pulling former stars, former fighters from the UFC to help legitimize their promotions, which sort of takes away from the marketing they do for their promotions. It allows them, they're using somebody else's organization, some other organization's fame to promote their fighter, which is kind of ugly. But the UFC did it as well. They brought MVP over and they used, hey man, he's done all this stuff in order to build. It's easier on that end though. If you're on the end of trying to build your promotion, yes, bringing in stars but a lot of times those stars are done. They're at the end. They're not going to do much. There's only a few that ever really go and do something. Obviously, Demetrius Johnson, because he's just a beast like that. But there are just very few that really go from the UFC to another organization and really like blow up and succeed. There are some. The PFL, I can't think of the guys, the PFL, he got cut from the UFC and then won the PFL tournament for $1 million. So there are some. But for those promotions, the problem is they're not marketing their fighters enough, and their fighters need to market themselves a little better. Although I do like a lot of the PFL, Bellator fighters. I do like one championship fighters, but the problem is in the US, the fans aren't as into it. So like trying to have a conversation about it's a little difficult unless you know people that are really into it. So, and know the fighters, like, I know a ton of the fighters. They have a show in September 6th in Denver that I'm kind of like, man, my birthday's on the 14th of September. Maybe I want to go to that show. But the reason why it's not as interesting, back to the main point, is because the UFC had a thing that happened. They had a Ronda Rousey. They had a Conor McGregor. They had already had, at the same time, an Anderson Silva. They had some knockout artists, some, things that were exciting. And it was still really new. Now, here we are, however many years later from the time it was really, really booming. I mean, Conor hasn't fought in 3 years. So we're talking, a good bunch of years since it's been booming, like 6 years. Well, they were counting on, with Conor, they put the money, when you say put the money behind it and they marketed him really well, what they did was they said, this guy's a freaking marketing machine on his own. Let's make sure we stick lots of microphones in front of him and put him in places where there are microphones, because if we do that, we're going to get a lot of bang for our buck. Oddly enough, right at that same time, a little bit before that, Ronda Rousey was coming onto the scene. She couldn't talk that great, and she, obviously we know because of her speech impediment over years and all that, but she was able to finish almost every woman that she fought in the first round by armbar, and she had enough in the tank to say certain things that were just enough to get people's attention about what she was going to do, or to get them interested in the fight, and let alone that she was a woman sort of killing all the other women at the time. This is fantastic if you're a business. It's almost like you don't have to do anything. If you're Nike and you make this beautiful shoe, all you have to do is have somebody wear it. That's amazing. And that's not exactly how that worked. I mean, Jordan was there first, but them together was the thing. That shoe is still just as popular, but it was because he was wearing it. And I think if you're Nike, you didn't have to do much. You were like, here's your shoe. We'll make sure they're beautiful. Go do your thing. And that's exactly what he did. He went out and just did his thing. And I think the UFC got into that of trying to let people, they started having these big press conferences, putting everybody in front of the mic. Let's see what happens when we put them in front of the mic. Let's see what happens when we put them, here, whatever. Like, they thought that that whole tough, the Ultimate Fighter situation, it works in all scenarios. And I think in fighting, it works and it doesn't work. Stars are made now. Stars are made by themselves. They have to create some sort of following first, and then the company says, oh, you know what? Let's build on the following this person already has, and let's just allow them to be in more markets so people can hear them more. They're actually not the ones doing as much of the image making. Remember, the UFC said, yeah, you can't have an image in here. We're a professional organization. You're going to wear a uniform. They're just now starting letting people, do stuff on their shorts, different colors or whatever the case. I mean, the reason why Sean O'Malley became big wasn't because of the UFC. Yes, he was winning, but it was because he went and created his own stuff outside of the UFC. That's the real route, man. If you're really trying to do something, do not count on any promotion to market you well. They're just not gonna. They're not. They want to know how many asses you're already putting in seats. This is what happened to the music industry too, not to cross over, but the music industry people became independent. They started showing up to these meetings to get signed by, different music labels with a package already done. They were like, this is my cover art, this is my, music, this is my marketing, this is my whatever. It's already done, and then all they have to do is be an outlet for it. So the UFC, I think, wanted to do that. But what you find is fighters aren't there. Everybody isn't a Conor McGregor. Everybody isn't a Chael Sonnen. Everybody just isn't out there able to chat it up and get the audience behind them in that way. People want to fight. You have Bilal Muhammad, who's on a whatever it is, 10-fight win streak. This man cannot buy a fight with Leon Edwards. He's trying. And then before that, Leon Edwards couldn't get the damn fight. And he was on a win streak. It feels like they're missing opportunities to market, to actually get behind the people that are actually winning in order to try to bypass that, to just get somebody that has some star power. And unfortunately, that has not panned out. Usually it happens organically. Somebody's winning and then something happens that makes them catch that fire. But if people are winning and you're not allowing them to catch that fire for whatever reason, I mean, with Bilal Muhammad, I can tell you, I believe the reason is because he is of his religion, of his culture, and of his beliefs. And this is why they will not do what they need. I think they're going to do it now, maybe. But, I think this is why they were holding him back. It's incredible to me that it's not incredible. Let's be honest. They're going to use you up. If you're a fighter, if you're a professional athlete, I'm not saying burn bridges, but I am saying get your money, get what you're valued at, because they're probably not going to care. I mean, look at Conor, 2 fights away from finishing his contract, and they were holding him up and doing whatever else they could to potentially, allegedly, try to make him renegotiate a new contract. And they know that he wants to leave and go make some money boxing or doing whatever else, and they want some of that, and he's like, I don't want to give you some of that. I gave you as much of myself as I want to give you. That is the major problem. You think that when you say you're done, you're done. You're done when they say you're done, as long as you're under contract with them. And you can fight your way out and do all kinds of weird stuff to get out, like Francis Ngannou. And yes, just to translate over, segue over into his fight. Yes, he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua, but he did really well against Tyson Fury and potentially won that fight. He won. He got out of his UFC contract where he was only going to make, let's say, $250,000. That's just big number. And made millions of dollars. Potentially won the first fight and definitely lost the second fight, but is a freaking multi-millionaire now and can do whatever he wants with his career and with his life. And that's the one thing that as a fighter you want to strive to be, and that is free. So good luck out there. Get a good manager. Don't sign any crazy deals. Know your value, and don't expect any of the promotions to really market you well. They're really looking for you to market yourself, and then for them to go ahead and I'll throw you in front of my outlets. And if you don't have that marketing ability, I get it. Not everybody does. That's really supposed to be their job. Good luck with it. Knock people out and become undeniable, and they won't deny you. One way or the other, you can get there. Really quick, I just wanted to go through UFC 200 versus UFC 300 just to tell you what I was talking about. UFC 300, this is the main card. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. Bo Nichols fighting Cody Brundage. Yay, Bo Nickel, I guess. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Sarukian. All right. I mean, okay. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF title. People don't want Max Holloway to fight Justin Gaethje. They feel like listen, man, whatever. I feel like, okay, at least it's a fight where two guys that we know are going to sling, but I mean, Max, they're worried about Max's health, and who knows what's going to happen with that. Weili Zhang is fighting on the co-main against Yan Jianan. I did not pronounce that correct. And Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight title. Jamal Hill didn't lose the title. He's fighting to get it, regain it, since he got injured. He vacated. I'm going to be honest, real honest here. There are 2 actual fights I want to see that I named, and then the 2 other fighters that I'd be interested in seeing fighting. honestly. Now, let's go back to UFC 200 and let's really talk about it. Here's the main card. Let's go from bottom to the top. Cain Velasquez versus Travis Brown. Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar. Daniel Cormier with a fill-in with Anderson Silva because John Jones popped. Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt, controversial, and ended up in all kinds of lawsuits. Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes. Yo, UFC 200 literally destroys UFC 300. This is why people are saying what they say. You have to go back and look to really, really measure. But like, I would watch UFC 200 now over UFC 300. Real talk. Last but not least, Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. No rules yet, so I don't really even know what to say about it. A lot of people were upset. They don't want Mike Tyson to do it. Mike Tyson's going to do what Mike Tyson wants to do, and he's earned the right to. Do I believe he should be fighting Jake Paul? Probably not. But should Jake Paul be fighting Mike Tyson? Probably not. Anyway, it's probably going to be a sparring or something, which, whatever, man. I don't know. Everybody's a fighter, and everybody's an MMA fighter, and everybody's a boxer, and I don't know. When I got into this, everybody was a martial artist. So times change, but that's that. Anyway, I love y'all. I hope you enjoyed the show. Keep the like, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend, pass it along. Stop by the gym, hit us up, www.luckysnt.com. We'll be waiting for you to get you started on your Muay Thai Jiu-Jitsu health journey. Peace. I'm out. I love y'all.
Systems been set up by racists trying to kill them. I just wanna live my life to make a couple million.